There is nothing quite like the anticipation of our annual family vacation to Tuscany. Every year for the past 12 years, I have looked forward to those magical 2 weeks where we disconnect from our busy lives and reconnect as a family. This year felt especially important to me. I had just been promoted to partner at my architecture firm in Seattle, and after months of grueling hours, I was desperate for that Italian sun and the laughter that always filled our rented villa. But when my sister Madison called me that Sunday night with devastating news about our trip, I had no idea I was about to discover the most heartbreaking betrayal of my life. Before I tell you how my own sister broke my heart, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and buckle up, because this story will show you how family betrayal can transform into the sweetest victory you never saw coming. Growing up as the older sister in the Thompson family meant I had always been the responsible one. My father Robert worked as a bank director in Portland, and my mother Patricia ran her own dental practice. Madison, my younger sister by 4 years, had chosen a completely different path as a travel blogger. While I was building my career in architecture, she was building her Instagram following. The dynamic between us had always been complex. Even as children, Madison seemed to resent my achievements, whether it was making honor roll or winning the state science fair. Our family vacation tradition started when I landed my first real job as a junior architect 12 years ago. I wanted to do something special for my parents, something that showed them how grateful I was for all their support through college. That first trip to a small bed and breakfast in Tuscany had been magical. Over the years, as my income grew, so did the scale of our vacations. By now, I was covering the entire cost, because frankly, I could afford it, and I loved seeing my family happy. This year was supposed to be our most spectacular yet. I had booked Villa Rosmarino, a breathtaking 6-bedroom estate, nestled in the hills outside of Montalcino. The property featured infinity pools overlooking vineyards, a full kitchen where we could take cooking classes, and enough space for all of us to spread out while still enjoying each other's company. The booking alone cost $15,000 for 2 weeks, but when I added first-class flights for everyone, car rental, and the various tours I had arranged, the total came to $25,000. I had spent months planning every detail. Monday would be our arrival and settling in. Tuesday was reserved for the wine tour through Brunello Vineyards. Wednesday meant a hands-on cooking class with a local chef who would teach us to make fresh pasta from scratch. Thursday was our day trip to Florence, complete with skip-the-line tickets to the Uffizi that I had purchased months in advance. Friday through Sunday were designated for relaxation by the pool and exploration of the local villages. The second week included a trip to Rome, more wine tours, and a special dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant that required reservations 6 months ahead. Every detail had been meticulously arranged because this vacation meant everything to me. After the most demanding year of my career, where I had worked 80-hour weeks to secure my partnership, I needed this time with my family. I needed to remember what mattered beyond spreadsheets and client meetings and construction deadlines. When my phone rang that Sunday evening, I was in my Seattle apartment packing my favorite sundresses and double-checking my travel documents. Madison's name appeared on the screen, and I answered cheerfully, expecting to discuss last-minute packing tips or flight details. "Alexa, I have terrible news about our trip." Madison's voice sounded strained, almost tearful. My heart immediately dropped. "What happened? Is everyone okay?" "It's Dad," she said, and I could hear what sounded like genuine distress in her voice. "He came down with some kind of intestinal infection yesterday. Mum took him to urgent care this morning, and the doctor said absolutely no flying for at least 2 weeks. Something about the risk of complications at altitude." I sank onto my couch, feeling the weight of disappointment settle over me like a heavy blanket. "How serious is it? Is he in pain?" "He's been really sick, throwing up all night. Mom's worried sick too. The doctor was very clear that travel is completely out of the question right now." Madison paused, and I heard her sigh deeply. "I know how much you were looking forward to this trip, and I feel terrible about the timing." Without hesitation, I said, "Family comes first. Dad's health is way more important than any vacation. I will call the villa right now and see about postponing." "Are you sure I know how much work you put into planning everything?" "Madison, of course I am sure. We can go later in the year or even next year if necessary. The important thing is that Dad gets better." I was already walking to my laptop to start making calls. "I will handle all the logistics. You just focus on helping Mom take care of Dad." As soon as we hung up, I sprang into action. Despite it being evening in Italy, I managed to reach the villa's management company. The representative was sympathetic, but explained that rescheduling would incur a $3,000 fee due to the short notice. I paid it without hesitation. Next, I called the airline to change our flights. That cost another $2,000 in fees and fare differences. The cooking class instructor, the wine tour guide, and the restaurant reservation all had to be cancelled, some with penalties. By midnight, I had rescheduled everything for October, assuming Dad would be fully recovered by then. The financial hit was significant, but I felt good about making the right choice. I even drove to the 24-hour pharmacy to pick up electrolyte solutions and stomach medication to drop off for Dad the next morning. As I finally fell asleep that night, I felt proud of how our family supported each other in difficult times. I had no idea that across the country in Portland, my family was already putting the finishing touches on an entirely different plan. Tuesday afternoon, I decided to surprise my parents with a visit. I had made a large pot of chicken soup that morning, thinking it might help Dad's recovery. I also stopped by the pharmacy to grab more supplies and picked up some of his favorite magazines. When I arrived at their house in Portland's Laurelhurst neighborhood, I was confused to see Dad in the garage, perfectly healthy and working on his vintage Mustang. "Dad," I called out, carrying the soup container. "What are you doing? Should you not be resting?" He looked up with a genuine smile, wiping his hands on a shop rag. "Hey, honey, what a nice surprise. I am just changing the oil. This old girl has been sitting too long." I stared at him, completely bewildered. He looked completely normal, healthy, energetic even. "But medicine said you were really sick. Food poisoning or some kind of infection." Dad's face scrunched up in confusion. "Infection, I feel great. Been working in the garage all week, actually. Your mother and I just got back from tennis this morning." My stomach started to twist with an uncomfortable feeling I could not quite name yet. I walked into the house to find my mother in the kitchen arranging flowers she had apparently just bought. "Mom, how is Dad feeling?" Madison said he had been really sick. She looked at me with the same confused expression Dad had worn. "What infection? Your father has been fine all week. Actually, he has been in a particularly good mood. Why would Madison tell you he was sick?" The uncomfortable feeling in my stomach was rapidly becoming something much worse. She called Sunday night and said Dad had food poisoning or an intestinal infection, that the doctor said he could not fly for 2 weeks. That is why we postponed Italy. Mom set down her flowers and turned to face me fully. "Alexa, your father has not seen a doctor in months. He certainly has not been sick. In fact, Madison was here Saturday afternoon and they were both laughing about something. She said she had been very busy preparing for some big surprise." The world felt like it was tilting slightly off its axis. "A surprise? What kind of surprise? I assumed it was something nice she was planning for you. She seemed excited about it. Said she had to take care of some important details and would be offline for a few days working on this special project." My hands were starting to shake slightly as I pulled out my phone. I scrolled to Madison's Instagram account. Her most recent post was from Friday, showing her morning coffee with the caption, "Exciting week ahead." There was nothing about family emergencies, nothing about being worried about Dad's health, nothing about disappointed vacation plans. In fact, I realized she had posted a story on Monday that simply said, "Going offline for a special project. Talk to everyone soon," with a winking emoji. I tried calling Madison directly. The phone rang several times before she answered, and immediately I could hear background noise that sounded distinctly like an airport. "Alexa, hi. I cannot talk long. I am at a friend's place, and it is really noisy here." But I clearly heard an announcement in the background. "Attention passengers, we will begin boarding at Gate 12 in approximately 10 minutes. "Madison, where are you exactly?" "I told you I am at Jessica's apartment. She has the television turned up really loud." But the announcement continued, "This is the final call for passengers traveling to Rome on Delta Flight 204. Rome. My heart stopped completely. I hung up immediately and ran to my car, leaving the soup with my confused parents and promising to call them later. During the 20-minute drive back to my hotel, my mind was racing through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Back in my room, I opened my laptop with trembling fingers. I logged into my Booking.com account, the same account Madison had access to, because she had helped me coordinate travel details in previous years. What I found there made me physically gasp out loud. The reservation for Villa Rosmarino had been modified. The guest name had been changed from Thompson Family Reservation to Madison Thompson and Guests. The dates had been changed too. Instead of our original July dates, it now showed a reservation starting that very day Tuesday and running for 10 days. I scrolled through the email confirmations with growing horror. Madison had systematically contacted every vendor I had booked. The cooking class was still scheduled, but now for the Thompson group with Madison as primary contact. The wine tours were confirmed for Wednesday and Friday. Even the Michelin-starred restaurant reservation had been transferred to Madison's name. She had essentially stolen our entire vacation and was at that very moment probably boarding a plane to Italy with our parents. But I needed to be absolutely certain before I did anything drastic. With shaking hands, I searched Facebook for Madison's close friends. Her friend Jessica had posted Instagram stories throughout the day. I clicked through them and found exactly what I was dreading, a story from 2 hours ago showing Madison, Jessica, and 2 other girls at Portland International Airport. Madison was wearing the new Burberry scarf I had given her for Christmas, and the caption read, "Italy, here we come, 2 weeks in Tuscany, living our best lives." The final story showed them at the gate with Madison raising a champagne glass and grinning widely. The timestamp showed it was posted just 30 minutes ago. I sat in stunned silence for several minutes, trying to process the magnitude of what my sister had done. She had lied about our father's health. She had manipulated me into cancelling the trip myself. She had stolen my reservation and was currently on her way to the villa I had paid for with friends I did not even know, while I sat alone in a hotel room in Portland, feeling like the world's biggest fool. But the shock was quickly giving way to something else entirely, something cold and decisive and absolutely furious. I called Villa Rosmarino directly, and after a few transfers, I was connected with Lorenzo, the property manager I had spoken with during the initial booking process. "Ah, Ms. Thompson, how wonderful to hear from you. Your family just checked in a couple hours ago. Beautiful group. Your sister Madison mentioned you could not make it due to a work emergency. Such a shame, but she said you completely understood." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "Lorenzo, I need to clarify something very important. I am the person who booked and paid for this reservation. I am the primary account holder. Could you please put Madison on the phone?" "Of course. Let me find her for you." I waited, my heart pounding, as I heard Lorenzo walking through the villa, calling Madison's name. Background voices, laughter, the sound of luggage being moved around. Then Madison's voice, bright and carefree. "Alexa, I was just about to call you. The villa is absolutely incredible. Even better than the photos, Madison." My voice came out completely flat and cold. "I just spoke with Mom and Dad. Dad is not sick. He never was sick." There was a pause that lasted just a beat too long. "What do you mean?" "Of course he was sick." "Cut the act, Madison. I know exactly what you did. I saw your Instagram stories. I saw the Facebook posts from Jessica. I know you are at the villa right now with your friends using the reservation I paid $25,000 for." Another pause. Then, to my absolute amazement, Madison laughed. "Well, you figured it out faster than I expected. How could you do this to me? How could you lie about Dad being sick? Do you have any idea how worried I was?" "Alexa, you need to relax. You always get everything handed to you. Perfect job, perfect apartment, perfect life." I thought it was time someone else got to be the star of the family for once. I was so angry I could barely form words. I work 80-hour weeks for that perfect life, Madison, and I have spent 12 years paying for these family vacations because I love our family. "Oh, please," she said, and her tone was becoming more callous by the second. "You love showing off how much money you make. You love being the generous big sister who can afford to take everyone on fancy trips. Well, this year I decided to take the fancy trip myself. With money I earned and a reservation I made. Details," she said dismissively. "Mom and Dad are here too, by the way. They think it is hilarious that you believe the story about Dad being sick." That hit me like a physical blow. They knew Mom and Dad knew you were lying to me. Of course they knew I told them weeks ago that you were getting too stressed with work and probably needed to skip this year anyway. They were totally on board with the plan. Dad said you would be flexible and understanding like always. I closed my eyes, feeling a pain in my chest that was completely different from anger. This was betrayal on a level I had never experienced. "Madison, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You have 2 hours to get out of that villa. She laughed again, but this time it sounded forced. You cannot be serious. We just got here and we are staying for 10 days. The reservations are in my name now anyway. Actually, they are not. I am the primary account holder. I have all the original booking confirmations and payment records. And in about 5 minutes, I am going to call Lorenzo back and have you removed from the property. You would not do that. Try me. Alexa, come on. We are your family. You cannot just kick your own family out of a villa in a foreign country. Family does not lie and steal from each other, Madison. You made your choice when you decided to betray me. I hung up and immediately called my bank. Within 10 minutes, I had frozen the credit card I had given Madison years ago for family emergencies. The card she had probably planned to use for meals and activities during her stolen vacation. Next, I called Lorenzo back. Lorenzo, this is Alexa Thompson again. I need to explain a very serious situation. The people currently at your villa are there under false pretenses. My sister has stolen my reservation without my permission. Oh my, this is a very unusual situation. I can email you all the original booking confirmations, payment records from my credit card, and proof that I am the account holder. What I need from you is for those people to be escorted off the property immediately. Ms. Thompson, if you can verify ownership of reservation, we must ask unauthorized guests to leave. This is our policy. Within 20 minutes, I had sent Lorenzo everything he needed. He called me back to confirm that the documentation was clear and that my sister's group would be asked to leave within 2 hours. But I was not done. I called the cooking class instructor and cancelled the Wednesday session. No refund, but I did not care. I called the wine tour company and cancelled both tours. Again, no refunds, but that was not the point. I contacted the car rental agency and cancelled the luxury vehicle that was supposed to be delivered to the villa Wednesday morning. Most satisfying of all, I called the airline and cancelled the return tickets for Madison, Jessica, and their friends. The tickets that were booked under my frequent flyer account and charged to my credit card. Lorenzo had been kind enough to provide me with the names of all the guests during our conversation. My phone started ringing almost immediately. Madison calling in complete panic. Alexa, you cannot do this. Lorenzo just told us we have to leave. This is insane. You have an hour and 50 minutes to pack your bags. Where are we supposed to go? We do not have anywhere else booked. I am sure you will figure something out. You seemed very resourceful when you were busy stealing my vacation. What about our flights home? How are we supposed to get back to Portland? That is not my problem anymore. You wanted to be independent and take control of your own vacation. Well, now you get to handle all the logistics yourself. This is cruel, Alexa. We are your family. No, Madison. Lying to me about Dad being sick was cruel. Stealing a vacation I paid for was cruel. Making Mom and Dad complicit in your deception was cruel. What I am doing now is called consequences. Please, Alexa. I am sorry, okay, I made a mistake. But you cannot just leave us stranded in Italy with nowhere to stay and no way to get home. For just a moment, I felt a flicker of the old sympathy. The old instinct to take care of my little sister when she was in trouble. But then I remembered her laughing on the phone when she told me she had lied about Dad's illness. I remembered her saying it was hilarious that I had believed her. Figure it out, Madison, and do not call me again. I hung up and turned off my phone. For the first time in my entire adult life, I had stood up to my family's manipulation. I had set a boundary and enforced it even when it was difficult and painful. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. Over the next few days, I learned exactly what had happened to my family in Italy. Through a mutual friend who followed Jessica on social media, I discovered that they had spent their first night in a budget hotel in Florence after being escorted out of Villa Rosmarino. Madison had to pay for the hotel room with her personal credit card since the one I had given her was frozen. Their social media presence shifted dramatically. Jessica's stories went from living our best life in Tuscany to complete silence. Madison's Instagram, which usually featured multiple posts per day during any travel experience, showed nothing at all for 3 days. When she finally posted again, it was a single photo of the Florence skyline with the caption, "Sometimes travel does not go as planned, but that is part of the adventure." The comments from her followers asking about the amazing villa and the luxury vacation went unanswered. I found out later that they had to purchase last-minute flights home using Madison's personal savings and credit cards. Last-minute international flights in peak summer season cost them nearly 4 times what the original tickets had been. The 4 of them ended up splitting the cost, which meant Madison paid roughly $3,000 just to get home early from the vacation she had stolen. My parents tried calling me several times during that week. I did not answer. They left voicemails that started with attempts at justification and gradually shifted toward requesting forgiveness. Dad's final message was the most honest. "Alexa, we thought you would just roll with it like you always do. We did not think you would actually fight back." That message told me everything I needed to know about how my family saw me. They thought I was predictable. They thought I was a pushover. They thought my kindness was weakness and that they could take advantage of it indefinitely. Instead of wallowing in anger and hurt, I made a decision that surprised even myself. I used my week of scheduled vacation time to book a last-minute solo trip to Costa Rica. I had never traveled alone before, and the idea was both terrifying and exciting. I spent 5 days at a yoga retreat in the mountains outside San Jose. No phones, no internet, no family drama. Just yoga classes, meditation sessions, healthy food, and time to think about what I wanted my life to look like going forward. The other guests at the retreat became unexpected friends. There was Sarah, a teacher from Minneapolis, who was recovering from a difficult divorce. David, a chef from Austin, who was taking time to figure out his next career move. Maria, a social worker from Phoenix, who made solo travel a priority every year as a way to maintain her mental health. These strangers showed me more genuine care and support in 5 days than my family had shown me in years. They listened when I told them about the betrayal. They validated my decision to enforce boundaries. They did not try to convince me that family is everything, or that I should just forgive and forget. When I returned to Seattle, I felt stronger and clearer than I had in a long time. I made an appointment with a therapist who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. Through our sessions, I began to understand that Madison's betrayal was just the most extreme example of a pattern that had existed my entire life. I had always been the responsible one, the successful one, the one who paid for things and fixed problems and made everyone else's life easier. And my family had taken that for granted to the point where they felt entitled to lie to me and steal from me, confident that I would eventually just accept it and move on. 3 months later, Madison reached out through email. She had apparently been blocked from calling or texting me. Her message was long and detailed, full of apologies and explanations about feeling overshadowed her whole life. She talked about therapy she was starting and changes she wanted to make. She asked if we could talk. I thought about it for several days. Then I wrote back a single paragraph. "I appreciate that you are working on yourself, and I hope therapy helps you understand why what you did was so hurtful. But I am not ready to have you back in my life right now, and I do not know if I ever will be. I need you to respect that boundary." She wrote back immediately, asking if there was anything she could do to make things right. I did not respond. My parents made several more attempts to reconcile over the following months. They offered to pay me back for the vacation costs, though they never actually followed through on that offer. They suggested family counseling. They guilt-tripped me about missing holidays and family gatherings. I attended Christmas dinner but left after an hour when Dad made a joke about Madison's Italian adventure and how I sure showed them. The fact that they still thought the whole situation was amusing rather than a serious betrayal told me everything I needed to know about whether they had learned anything from the experience. I have not spoken to Madison in 8 months now. I have limited contact with my parents to brief surface-level conversations every few weeks. I spend holidays with friends or traveling solo. I have taken up painting, joined a hiking group, and started dating someone who treats me with the respect and kindness I deserve. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled the situation. They suggest that maybe I was too harsh, that maybe I should have given Madison another chance, that maybe family loyalty should trump everything else. But I have learned something important about myself through this experience. I learned that kindness without boundaries is not actually kindness at all. It is enabling. And I learned that love without respect is just manipulation dressed up to look like care. The people in my life now are people who value honesty, who keep their commitments, and who would never dream of lying to me about a family emergency in order to steal something I had worked hard to provide. These relationships feel completely different from the exhausting family dynamics I grew up with. I learned that day that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from people who do not value what you bring to their lives. I learned that enforcing consequences for betrayal is not cruel, it is necessary for self-respect. And I learned that the word family does not excuse behavior that you would never tolerate from anyone else. Sometimes the people closest to you will see your generosity as weakness and your boundaries as suggestions. They will take advantage of your good nature until you prove to them that you respect yourself enough to say no. Madison taught me that lesson in the most painful way possible, but it was a lesson I needed to learn. And now I live my life surrounded by people who earn the privilege of my time, my resources, and my trust, rather than assuming they are entitled to them. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have forgiven your family and tried to work things out? Or would you have walked away like I did? Let me know in the comments below, because I would love to hear your thoughts on family boundaries and what we owe the people who share our DNA. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and learning to value your own worth. And if you know someone who struggles with family drama or setting boundaries, share this video with them, because sometimes we all need a reminder that it is okay to put ourselves first. Thank you so much for listening to my story. And I hope it helps you remember that you deserve relationships built on respect, honesty, and genuine love.